functional wellness physician and the mother of 4 very cute young boys. Her professional education includes her Doctor of Medicine from LSU, and she did her OB/GYN residency from Northwestern University in Chicago. After going through some additional training through the Institute of Functional Medicine, she implemented some major changes in the way that we help our patients to get better, because we see, such problem with the way that health is affecting children and adults alike. We are on a strong mission to help educate as many people as we can to not only change their life, but their family as well. So we have a short video for you to watch really quick, and then Dr. Booker will be right up.
I was miserable, and I knew I had to make a change. I didn't know how to make a change, and all of the doctors that I saw, and I saw many, really didn't offer anything other than medication, which didn't really address the problem.
I have a lot of skin rashes on my face, allergic reactions. I was nauseated all the time, almost to the point where I was bedridden just with chronic fatigue. I was tired, but I have 2 small children, so I was just kind of working through that. I really thought that was the reason why I was so tired. And I've lived with some anxiety for most of my life.
I have gone doctor to doctor trying to find out why I felt so bad. Every doctor would do blood work, tell me I was fine. Also, I went to an endocrinologist who would write me prescriptions. Every time I go and say one wasn't working, he'd write me another one. The side effects were horrible. So I did internet search on functional medicine, and I found mental health. Today, I'm feeling so much better than I was back in October. I know that I still have a way to go, but I have made so many improvements. It's awesome.
It's nice to wake up feeling refreshed rather than wanting to go back to sleep. I went from taking 8 to 10 Advil and ibuprofen every day, and I haven't had any in 4 weeks. Energy, where before I just felt dragged down.
The biggest thing that I've noticed, which is a great improvement, was my anxiety is almost non-existent, which quite a surprise to have that not be an everyday occurrence in my life. I still do see that I can and will improve as I continue to live this lifestyle. It's changed my life completely. I am, back living a life as opposed to, just struggling to get through everything. I have enough energy to play with my son and do homework and all of the things that normal people should be able to do.
I thought that going organic was going to be terrible, but it's been a very easy process. My husband has enjoyed it as well and has had some of the benefits that I've had. It's noticeable in my complexion. My friends have commented I've lost weight, which really wasn't my intention.
This program really makes you feel empowered over your health and your future.
I feel like it's given me my life back. And it's just fun to wake up every day and feel good and not, struggle to get through your whole day. It's just great to feel better.
If you respect and love yourself this much and truly have your health as a priority, then make the commitment to yourself. We here at Mint Health truly look forward to having you as part of our wellness community.
Awesome people, that's why we work so hard. Who here is not happy with your health right now? That's why we're all here on a Wednesday night instead of being home with our families. And you're not alone. The fact is that most people in our country end up with medical problems, on lots of medications, kind of depressed, kind of overweight or obese, just feeling kind of crummy, and that's kind of the natural fight that we reach. Why do y'all think this is happening? Do you think we have a health crisis? Yes. Who all, is everyone here I think mostly they have a thyroid problem. It's always much deeper. so many different components involved. But what kind of health problems, aside from this mass, like why are all of our thyroids not working right? Mine too. What other problems are going on?
Adrenal fatigue.
Right, stress and adrenal issues.
Hormonal.
Right. Hormonal problems. Depression's going up.
Lupus and Sjogren's.
Yeah, autoimmune disorders are hugely on the rise. MS, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Sjogren's, diabetes,
Hashimoto.
yeah. All of these things are going up. Is this how our bodies were designed to function? No, it's not really what God didn't make us to end up feeling this way, right? So what is the foods we eat? What other things do we think are contributing?
Stress.
Stress.
Stress. Yeah.
Lack of sleep, that's a stressor.
Yeah.
Free radicals.
Yeah.
Food
things-
additives.
Environment, over-medicated.
Yeah.
So is our healthcare system doing a good job
No.
at addressing our problems in the right way? No. And I feel that as a patient and a doctor, really from both sides of things. So I think we'd all agree that we probably have a healthcare crisis too. And now we don't know what the heck's going to happen, right? So we have to learn how to be well, because no matter how much money we put into our health insurance payments, even me myself, I still have a $10,000 deductible, and for a family of 6, pay a whole lot of money that never pays for anything that I want or need, right? So we have to really take the time to invest in learning how to be well, and recognizing that, yeah, we're all here right now because we feel that we have thyroid symptoms and we're struggling with our thyroid, but it goes so much deeper than that. 1 in 3 people have cancer. So many women, the most common killer for women is actually heart disease, and all the things that are making our hormones, including our thyroid gland dysfunction, all connect back, to the same root causes, which is what functional medicine is about, and it's the beauty of it. So we're kind of all depressed about that, right? But are we gonna just throw up our hands and roll over? Be the little roach swirling down the toilet bowl trying to hang on, sticking their arm up? I used to live in New Orleans, so we had a lot of those. No, who has kids in here? Yeah, me too. Grandkids, anybody old enough to have grandkids? We all used to be kids, right? So we can't just let this be. That's like a lot of things in our society. We can't just let this be. We gotta figure out how to do a better job. And for my own self, going through this journey is what brought me to functional medicine and why I love practicing it so much. I still do regular OBGYN about half the time. I love that too. I do both. But the changes that help me bring about in people and myself is so powerful. I started life with an extremely loving but an extremely unhealthy family where we must have been eating cereal and cake all day long. I don't know. Before kids were all obese, I was the fat kid in school. And as a child, that's horrible emotionally, and what I grew up with, and trying to fix my body, and did really a lot of damage to my hormones and my GI system. And fast forward to medical school, I'd been married a few years. My husband and I were trying to get pregnant. We had terrible fertility problems. Looking back now, I know exactly what was wrong with me. Then I had no idea, and no one else did either. And we went through a lot of fertility treatments, had a lot of miscarriages, ended up with a beautiful family of my 2 adopted boys who were twins from Ethiopia, and my first biologic child through in vitro after losing a lot of them. And my last one, I had learned functional medicine, and I figured out how to feel better, and we got a spontaneous pregnancy after 14 years, and then we got a vasectomy. Poor kids. That would change my family, but that was a really painful experience. And so knowing what I know now, I see that it was not necessary. And even going a little deeper, what truly got me to embrace this other concept of medicine was my postpartum experience, because we had gone from 0 to 3 children in less than 6 months. And I started my career at the same time after 12 years, basically, of training through college and medical school and my residency in Chicago, and I totally crashed. It's like those moments where you finally get everything you want, and you're so exhausted. I had horrible postpartum depression. I didn't want to go to work. I wasn't enjoying my babies that I had spent tens of thousands of dollars and years to get. And I knew if I went to my doctor, what would happen to me? What would happen to me, Valerie? I'd be in a I don't know that I would quite, maybe almost. They would have just put me on an antidepressant. And I didn't want to do that. And I talked to one of my friends who, in medical school, who had trained through Institute of Functional Medicine, and she was like, Betsy, this is what you need to learn. And I did, and I was able to get myself healthier finally for the first time in my life and really start helping my patients. So we don't roll over and play dead. You know, there's better ways, and the functional medicine model is all about restoring things from the root cause, recognizing from a deeper level what's making your cells not function correctly so that you can fix that and make your whole body. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. So as we're learning, what do we say? Knowledge. Lisa, what is knowledge? Knowledge is what?
Power.
Knowledge is everything. Knowledge is power, right? But what is it if you learn a bunch of stuff and you write it down and you don't do anything with it?
You have to implement.
It's useless.
It's useless. Oh yeah.
Knowledge
A lot
is
of
not
us are-
synonymous with behavior.
It's not at all. So we have to start thinking about how we take action. That's a big thing that we do in our office, aside from our practice of OBGYN and me working individually with people in functional medicine, is really helping people put action into their lives. And I'm going to explain how we do that so that meaningful change can come about. So we're going to go through the things that are missing, because really we don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease care system, as I'm sure you guys would agree with me about. We kind of focus on a self-reel. These are some of the big things I deal with from a functional medicine perspective that are so much more helpful to take this approach. And thyroid is really a big part of that, and how we really learn to be proactive for wellness rather than just, treating diseases. So let me ask y'all this first. Eva, how do you learn what's healthy? What do you normally do when you're looking for information?
Read books.
Read books.
Internet.
Yeah. Patricia, what do you do?
I usually look up something in medical books if there's something bothering me. I try to look for the natural healing ideas, but I fall off a lot of it.
Yeah. But so that's a very active way that we look for information, right? But I'm going to argue that a lot of the ways that we act are a lot more subconscious and come from this place, right? So what does Lisa, is it Lisa?
Mm-hmm.
What does the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry, all these industries have a lot of that we don't? I gave you the answer.
Money.
Right.
Lots of it.
And what they're doing with that is training our brains, right? And so on a very subconscious level, even though we think we're really smart and we're looking up what's good for us, what's healthy, we're teaching ourselves on the internet and through books, most of the actions that we take, and especially with kids too, and you know this, if you ever have the TV on and children are around, a lot of the actions come from things we learn subconsciously, and it's very deliberate. There's a reason that the pharmaceutical industry pays billions and billions of dollars to put ads out in certain ways. Even if we're not thinking, oh, I need that medicine, we still in the back of our minds are not believing we really have to be proactive and safeguard our health, because we think there's this crud out there that's going to save us. Well, it's not. It's not going to save you, and it just gets more and more expensive and ridiculous and unattainable. So it's not a good solution. So we really have to start, teaching ourselves to not become pawns and suckers, really, to this system of the health insurance system, of the pharmaceutical industry, even of the health industry. So it's all about how we act. Valerie, do we tend to, in our health care, be proactive, reactive?
I would say more
Reactive, right? Most of the time people wait until when to really focus on when you're sick, when you have cancer, when you've been diagnosed with a horrible autoimmune disease that's debilitating, right? Or if you have a really sick child, some people will change then, but often not before then. We just kind of go along with the status quo, but who's losing out? Who's losing out in this situation? Right? Who's losing out?
The human.
The driver, right? He's a sucker. So we have to really actively learn how to not be such suckers, but it's hard. It's hard. Like you said, Patricia, you read and learn stuff and you kind of fall off the wagon, you don't stick with things. It's hard because we're surrounded constantly with all the wrong stuff all the time, and all these messages that get implanted in our poor little brains that get overwhelmed. So we have to really start looking for motivation. And one place people get motivation from is pain. If you step on a tack or 5, you're really going to stop and pull it out. And sometimes people come to me and they're so miserable. They've gotten to this point of, I'm not living my life, I'm just kind of surviving it, I'm just kind of sometimes it's purpose that motivates us. What's your name?
Of course you will.
Yeah.
Of course you will.
Say it again.
Of course you will.
Kushila, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
What do you feel like is your purpose in life? Your kids, and are you having any symptoms that interfere with you being able to do what you need to do?
Tired.
A lot of fatigue, yeah. Yeah, we all have a purpose here in life, whether it be to be a good parent or, you know, something with our, you know, vocation, and having extreme fatigue, getting a diagnosis of cancer or diabetes or dying prematurely because we haven't been taking enough care of ourselves really absolutely interferes with that. Sometimes it's money. What's the most common reason seniors go bankrupt, Connie?
It's not planning.
Well, it's healthcare bills, actually. I mean, people are planning, but they're not planning on getting as sick as they are. And then now their coverage is about to even like go further down. So it's healthcare bills. So a lot of people absolutely lose their livelihood that they have been planning for. And so people sometimes think that it's more expensive to be well than to be sick, because you have to try harder, you have to invest in yourself, you have to learn new things and treat your body differently. But over the course of your life, it's way more expensive to be sick, because do insurance companies always cover 100% of everything?
No.
No, like we have huge deductibles and we have 80-20 policies and 60-40, and even if you only have to pay 20 or 40% of something really expensive, it's still really, really expensive. So it's a lot smarter to be proactive from the get-go. And sometimes it's our people that motivate us. You know, for me, it's my kids. They're a little bit older now, but they're still the speech. They motivate me so much because I don't want them going through what I went through. You know, not that I've had a bad life, I've had an amazing life, but I don't want them having to deal with unavoidable things that they don't have to deal with and getting sick, like 1 in 2 kids are today. You know, they have all kinds of chronic health problems. And World Health Organization tells us this. Read that one, Lisa, because
The first generation kids, is that part?
yes,
To have a shorter lifespan than the preceding.
right.
Wow.
So this is from the WHO. Do y'all know WHO, Deborah? You know the WHO, World Health Organization? So they're sort of a governing body of health in the world, as their name states. Tammy, are they a quack organization?
I hope not.
No, they're not.
I would like to think not.
No, they're not at all.
Yeah.
They're not fringe. They are the World Health Organization, and they give us a lot of great information, and this is what they're telling us. So this is a really big problem. We can't just pretend this doesn't exist. And it's happening. Why? It's happening because of the chemicals in our environment, the foods, the medications. You know, I'm always astounded at the teenagers I see that come in for their gynae visits, and they have a list of 4 or 5 medications. It's crazy to me.
It's like every other child's on ADHD.
They are, right? They can concentrate because of the food. And, you know, they're going to develop more and more problems as they go along, just like, you know, we all have.
And then one medicine that they take, it has like a laundry list of other problems that put them on another medicine. And then that one adds 100 more things.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
It happens to kids and grown-ups, right? And so that's where we have to stop and say no and really address things from the root cause, which is a much, much better way to go. And we have to be proactive to be able to do that from when our kids are in our bellies, if anyone's in here is still having babies, all the way until we're done, until God's ready to like pluck us off. We can't just sit around and take what comes at us. We have to be extremely proactive. So some of the big things that we look at, when y'all think about stress, Cammie, what do you think about when you think about stressors in your life? Work, what else?
Well, sometimes health is a stressor for me,
Sometimes health.
if I have pain, it's a stressor. Drama is a stressor, government is a stressor, elections are stressor.
Yes, all those things, I agree. Traffic. So those would fall under the category mostly of emotional stressors. Are those important, or things that we should just, in our culture, we kind of think we should just be able to deal with all of that stuff, right? That's just a normal part of life, suck it up, keep moving. Well, actually, our chronic sleep deprivation, chronic high stress levels, having your hyper response system always revved up like we are is extremely detrimental to your hormone health. That kills a lot of people's thyroids right there. You stop converting your T4 to T3, which we're going to talk about later, and that one component can totally mess you up. It's not something that we can ignore. Chronic sleep deprivation is just as bad as smoking one of the hardest things for me being an
Bless you.
obstetrician. You know, I'm always having, I'm like trying to set rules for myself with sleep since I read that study. But it's really important. We can't ignore it. And how often do you address that in your health care? Not really. You don't. But it's a very integral piece of a wellness approach. Physical stressors. So sometimes that's degeneration from inactivity. Things that happen to our bodies from poor nutrition can cause physical stressors. But what about surgery? Do we do a lot of surgery? Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of surgeries. Kimberly, how many women have had hysterectomies over their lifetime? Percentage-wise, do you know? No. About 50%. That's pretty wild, isn't it? That's a lot. That is a lot, you know? So is that necessary? No. So why does it happen? And I'm a gynecologist, so I do this too. Cancer? Okay, well that's a good reason to have a hysterectomy. But for most people, they have bleeding, they have fibroids, you know, pain, and instead of figuring out all the hormonal issues contributing to that, which often in boys includes thyroid hormone, the easy answer is just to cut it out, and it's much faster for the patient, you know, and it's easier for the doctor, and we get paid like a gazillion times more just to cut it out. But it didn't solve the problem, because really it's a hormone problem, and it's affecting your brain, your other glands, your bones, your breast tissue, and we've never actually really dealt with the issue at hand. But, you know, if someone's going to pay me $80 to talk to you for an hour, or $1,800 to spend an hour cutting out your uterus, well, what's someone who's trying to keep their practice open going to do? It's terrible, but that's the reality of it.
So fibroid, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fibroid tumors are caused by hormonal
Initially,
issues?
yeah, initially they are, absolutely. And so sometimes it's still right to cut it out, but you can't ignore the hormone problems that were behind it in the first place. And chemical stressors are huge, especially in the area of your thyroid gland and how it functions. What are some chemical stressors that we get exposed to?
Cleaning products.
Things that we clean our homes with, right?
Smoking,
Yeah.
secondhand smoke.
Things in the environment, yeah.
Things in our food.
Things in our food. Lots of stuff, right? So again, World Health Organization put out a report in 2012, so about 4 years ago, that told us all about endocrine disrupting chemicals or hormonally disruptive chemicals, and laid out all the research that shows us that that's the #1 cause of much of the rise in many of the health problems that we have. So hormonally dependent cancers like breast, prostate, to top the list off, many of the autoimmune disorders, many of the childhood disorders, many of the thyroid disorders, including thyroid cancers, and many of our metabolic problems are very much connected back to hormonally disruptive chemicals in the environment. And as a conventional doctor, that is like nothing that I've been taught. It's something we look at a lot in functional medicine. The only time I've seen it even brought up in a conventional medicine setting is the president of ACOG. ACOG stands for American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, wrote a letter, this has been a couple of months now, to Congress pleading for chemical reform because of the terrible impact it's having on pregnancy complications, and really it's screwing up our kids, right? I don't think that they acted on anything, but I was impressed to see that letter go out. But they didn't have any answers, but awesomely in functional medicine we have a lot of answers for what we do about this. Not that you can make it go away, but how do you mitigate the effects on your hormone system? And that's a big deal with thyroid and lots of other hormones. Who knows who Hippocrates is?
Father of medicine.
Who said that?
Do no harm.
Right, which one? Stephanie, father of medicine. And he said, well, first, to us doctors, do no harm to thy patients. And he said something else about food.
Yes, let your medicine be your food and your food be your medicine.
Right, so who does that?
We're supposed to do that.
We're supposed to do that, right? So that's a core of medicine that we absolutely do not pay attention to at all. And from a functional standpoint, even when we're trying to do the right thing, we're thinking about food, like the calories and how many fat grams and how many protein grams and how many carbs, and we're counting all this crap, and it's totally oppressive and it sucks, right? In functional medicine, we look at food as to how it's changing your genetic expression, what kind of antioxidants you're eating, how it's affecting your hormones. It's a totally different approach, and it's absolutely the right approach, and it's not oppressive. It's actually really, really fun. But again, you're not going to learn that from the food industry, and you're not going to learn that from your health industry. It's something you have to take it upon yourself to learn and put into place. So, James, you are token male tonight. Will you go with Connie?
Yes.
Yeah, you love Connie. When you look at this plant, what do you think it's missing?
Water.
Sunlight, water, nutrients.
Yeah, right? And if you gave it those things, is it gonna get better?
If that's what it really needed.
Yeah. It's probably gonna get better if you give it sunlight, water, and nutrients.
Might be an
Maybe
underlying
you might wanna do a little bit of
fungus.
fungus. You might wanna do a little bit of investigation to make sure you're giving it the right stuff. So it gets better. You give it the things it needs. You've done a little evaluation of the soil and looked at it and figured out, you know. And then do you ever fix your car? Do you ever do any car work?
She fixes mine.
Okay. So Connie, you're fixing James' car for him. And you have some oil or something you're carrying, you spill it in the plant, what's gonna happen? It's not gonna survive. So you're upset. Someone you really love who's passed away is giving you this plant. You're gonna pull it out, you're gonna shake it off, right? You're gonna hose it off, you're gonna give it some new soil to help it flourish, right? Would that be what you would do? Probably.
I try my best.
You would try your best to do that. Now, if you took this plant to the doctor, that was like my doctor when I had postpartum depression, what would they have done?
Given an antidepressant.
Yes, that's exactly what would have happened. And it seems retarded, right? It seems absolutely ridiculous because that's not how we even think about plants. It's not how now we think about animals like that. Some of the medicines that our animals are on are crazy because we've been feeding them bad food too. But we don't think that way, but we think that way about our bodies because that's how our brains have been trained to think by industry after industry after industry and let it happen. So from a functional medicine perspective, it's almost that simple. When we're looking at a body that's not thriving for whatever reason it is, whether it be chronic fatigue, autoimmune, Hashimoto's, thyroid problems that just aren't going away with the usual prescription of Synthroid, infertility, things aren't working. Something's not working in the body. Well, guess what? About 80% of people are highly nutrient deficient when we really look at things, even though we're all, struggling with our weight and have too many calories and things like that. We don't have the right nutrients. I see people that look like you're probably in the healthcare profession, right? Dental. So things don't work in your body if they don't have the right fuel, the right nutrients there. Also, so we look at that. What's missing? What's missing that should be here? And we look at what's here that shouldn't be here. What's the motor oil? What kind of stuff have you gotten exposed to that have lodged in your body all the time? Because we don't just get exposed to all these chemicals and they just immediately wash away. That's what the EPA would have us believe, but that's not what happens. We all have our own toxic body burden of things we've been exposed to over our lives, and depending on how good you are genetically at getting rid of it, depends on how much gets stuck with you. So you have to be able to deal with that, learn how to detoxify the body and get that body burden down so that you can start functioning again. And 70 to 80% of what people have ailing them improves with those extremely simple steps. And it's a little bit different what the exact specifics are for everybody, but the overriding concept is the same. And I'm not against medicine. I prescribe medications all the time. It just can't be the first or the only thing that we do to fix something. Samantha, if you wake up in the morning and your fixed engine light's on, what are you going to do with your car?
Check the fluids, check the brakes, check.
You know how to fix everything? That's amazing.
I don't know how to fix everything, but I'm gonna call my dad and say, Dad,
I'll fix it.
Dad knows.
Does anybody just take their car to the shop? Samantha's a superwoman with her car, right? That's pretty impressive. But if you take your car into the shop, they get the light off, and you get in it the next day and it's on again, what would you do, Deborah? Take it back. And like the same thing happens for a third day in a row, what are you gonna do?
Give it to somebody else.
Take it to somebody else, because clearly they're just turning the light off, they're not really fixing it, and eventually you're gonna get totally stranded. Your car's not gonna work anymore. But that's the same thing we do when we fail to go and look at all of our root cause problems that are causing all these illnesses and symptoms. We turn off the light over and over and over, and we can't get a new body. We break down, and then we have cancer, and you know, we're 70 and we're falling apart and we're miserable and we're bankrupt from our healthcare bills because we've never addressed what was actually really wrong. So we can't skip that step. Some symptoms, you know, that people don't really realize that help us understand what's going on from a root level or connected to problems that we're having. Does anybody in here have diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, irritable bowel, bloating, indigestion, right? Right? And you usually just kind of take something and try to make that go away and can't really figure out what's going on. Well, in functional medicine, we know that our GI system is the most important thing we got going on. It's really outside of your body, from your mouth to your butt. It's like a hollow tube, and it's just as important of a barrier as your skin. So a lot of people have impaired gut integrity, known on the internet as leaky gut, but it's a lot more complicated than that. If you had holes all over your skin, what would you do, Katrina? If you had holes all over your skin, you would be really upset. You would probably go to the hospital. Yes. You would be extremely concerned.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, the same thing's going on inside of your body with your gut mucus integrity. And that lining has to absorb all of our nutrients that we need, and it has to get rid of most of the toxins that we need to get rid of. And if it's not working well, if you're inflamed, you have all these bowel symptoms, it's not happening. You're not absorbing things. Even if you're actually eating it, you're not absorbing. This happens to people over and over again, and they have no idea what's going on. The other thing about our gut is that 2/3 to 3/4 of our immune system surrounds it, because it is such an important barrier place in our bodies. And so when we have this broken down integrity, our immune system is getting exposed to all kinds of stuff that it should not be seeing. And that is the root cause of autoimmunity and why it's going up. And it starts in the gut. So anything, especially Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroid, you have to go back to the gut, or it's not going to get better. Your symptoms are not going to get better. And I see this over and over and over again. And lastly, if you, Connie, if you have to like do something big and important that makes you nervous, and you know you have to take a big test or give a presentation or do something at work, does it ever make your belly feel funny? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I have an oxidation in a week, I'm already stressed about it.
Yeah, and you get all tight and inflamed, maybe some diarrhea, and that's normal. It's called the gut-brain axis. Do you think that's a one-way street or a two-way street?
It's two-way.
It's a two-way street. That's right. So there's a lot of nervous system connections between your brain and your gut that go both ways. So inflammation in the gut actually affects our neurochemistry, just like our neurochemistry and stress and anxiety affect our GI system. So a lot of anxiety, saw one of our patient practice members in the beginning talking about how her anxiety went away. She has Hashimoto's and did a lot of under the hood work with gut health and detoxification. She had severe anxiety, and it's resolved not because we did anything with anxiety medications, but because we worked on what really the problem was. So that's really, really important. And also, and I didn't believe any of this. When I was learning functional medicine, I was like, okay. When I put it into practice, and patient after patient after patient gets better, constantly, it's like I want to just walk over to the doctor's lounge and tell everybody, you guys have no idea what we're not ready for that. We don't live in California, so it'll come around. We live in Baton Rouge.
That's right.
So that's why we, have a lot of great people in our office. Has anyone heard of the microbiome before? Anybody heard of the Human Genome Project? Mm-hmm. Who has? Yeah. Okay, so Eva, what do you know about the Human Genome Project?
I don't remember.
Not too much. That's okay.
Not too much.
So it happened a little while back. One really cool thing that happened when they were going and the researchers and scientists were mapping our human genome is they were like, wow, over half of this DNA we're coming across is not actually human, it's microbial. And so that led to the microbiome project that was run by the NIH. And what we have learned is that all of these bugs that our bodies have evolved through the history of human time with over years and years and years and years are so important to how our bodies function. It's important to how we detoxify, how we digest and absorb nutrients, how our glands work, how our hormones work. And we've become They're like living in us. It's like a symbiosis, kind of like moss growing on a tree. And we totally messed them up. How do you think we mess them up? I forgot. Stephanie, how do you think we mess these amazing bugs that need us and we need them? How do we mess them up?
Well, probiotics would be killed off by taking antibiotics. That would be
Well,
one.
so these things just live in you. Over half of your body is actually microbes, by the way.
Well, we probably eat the wrong things, drink the wrong things, and
We take a lot of, as a society,
we take a lot of drugs like antibiotics would kill them.
Right?
Then the wrong ones would flourish.
Very true. Another thing, taking a lot of steroids so people feel bad at night, and now nobody can afford to go to their doctor on a regular basis, so they just go to urgent care and they get antibiotics and a shot of steroids for whatever. And that's all extremely disruptive to the microbiome. So most of us, when we really look at it, do not have a healthy biome, and that's something in functional medicine that we help you identify and correct, and has profound implications for your glandular health and for everything else in between. And it's really amazing and fun. Our birthing practices also are not good. All the C-sections we do, we don't pass the right bugs on to our babies. And moms, you know, I'm always trying to teach them in my OB practice how important the microbiome is. You're going to be passing this on to your kid, and it actually sets them up for life. I came into the world as a C-section baby, over 10 pounds. My mom had gestational diabetes, and I had to work really hard to keep good bugs growing robustly in my body because my platform was bad when I started. So I'm always telling everyone it's just as important as your registry and the color that you're painting your wall. You need to address your microbiome because you're passing that on to your kid in a big way.
that?
Functional school studies. So, okay, we send them off and we get reports and we see what's overgrowing. A lot of people have yeast overgrowth. A lot of people have other strong bacterial overgrowth. That it puts off a lot of what I call explain as exhaust, kind of negative byproducts that make you feel bad, make you feel tired, give you brain fog, affect with your hormone function, your thyroid function, messes with your immune system. So other things that we put up with that are not normal are feeling tired of sluggish all the time, feeling kind of depressed all the time, mood swings, feeling anxious, not sleeping, the huge one. You know, it's not just something that we need to go and take some trazodone or some Klonopin for. There's a biochemical. Can't wait to work with you. I already know I can help you. It's a biochemical problem that we need to figure out what it is. It's a hormonal issue of why you're not sleeping, or it's going to keep causing you issues. Chronic headaches, brain fog. I didn't really understand what this was until I recognized some things in myself and fixed it. And I was like, oh, that was brain fog because now it's gone. I just thought I needed more coffee to get going in the day. Missing libido, no sex drive. Women tell me this all the time. Our sick kids, it's another symptom of our poor health that we keep passing down. And weight, you know, people think that our weight gain, and what our doctors tell us over and over is, well, eat less and exercise more, and it kind of ends there. Well, so much to do with weight is hormone problems, especially these things: your insulin, your thyroid, your adrenal, and your estrogen. What's your name in turquoise? Samantha. Where do you think we get exposed to extra estrogen in the environment?
In the environment,
Yeah.
some of the things we ingest, maybe, or that we're exposed to.
Yeah, so a lot of when I talked about that report about the hormonally disruptive chemicals, a lot of them are very estrogenic. And it's bad to have extra estrogen in your body. It stimulates the breast tissue. That's why the rates of breast cancer have gone up, you know, over the years. It makes you hold on to weight when you have too much estrogen in your body. Even this phenol A that lines a lot of our canned goods, that started as a synthetic estrogen, and then someone figured out how to turn it into a plastic. And now we're like, oh, it's not really a good thing to have all of this all over the environment. But we can't get rid of it. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous already. Our adrenal gland, that has to do with our stress response system. So I already said we all kind of live like stressed out and high strung and all revved up. If your cortisol levels are high, your epinephrine, your norepinephrine, all these things that are supposed to go up when we have to run from bears and tigers and, you know, chase our food, and then it's supposed to go back down. If we're always living in a state of crisis, there's no way you're going to lose weight. You know, no matter what you do. That's why people get so frustrated. Thyroid. So some of the things I wrote on this paper that we give out, subclinical hypothyroidism or poorly treated hypothyroidism is rampant, and it's so frustrating to be dealing with that because metabolically you just don't work right until you get that recovered. And insulin is huge, and it's actually really connected back to thyroid health as well. Has anyone had their insulin levels checked that you know of, like done a 2-hour insulin study? Yeah. Yeah, good. More people are starting to do those. And Women's Hospital has actually been a leader at helping people understand the importance, because you can have totally normal blood sugar and crazy insulin levels, and it makes you feel awful, and it messes with your thyroid, it messes up your cholesterol, it can cause infertility for young people. So we use metformin. I don't know if anyone's put you on that yet. Yeah. So, and it's not a horrible thing to do. It's just, again, if that's all you do, well, you haven't really turned things around. Most of the time after a while, we're able to get people off with that, but it can be an okay stepping stone. But it's absolutely something you have to know because it's so intricate. And with the thyroid, so we all know our thyroid gland lives in our neck. It makes something called mostly T4. That is a pro-hormone. That's not actually the part of your thyroid hormone that's acting at your cellular level. It has to be converted to active T3, or it can be converted to reverse T3. So things that make the inactive reverse T3 go up are chronic stress, because when the body is stressed out, it wants to metabolically slow you down and makes you make more reverse T3 from this T4 that your thyroid gland is making, or that you're taking in the form of thyroid replacement. Nutrient deficiencies, toxicities that impact your thyroid health too, and the enzymes that make that conversion happen. All of those things contribute to how this happens. And if we don't have good active T3 levels, it affects our core temperature, it affects our metabolism, it affects our brain function, and it affects energy in a big way. And this is something I find over and over with people that is missed, and the endocrinologists around here don't believe in it. I'm not sure why. They will eventually. They just, I don't know. Everyone's really conservative here for some reason, but we'll get there. The things that you really need to make this part of your thyroid metabolism work better is the right nutrients, knowing how to mitigate the impact of stress. We can't make it go away, but we can change how much it impacts us from a lifestyle factor, having a healthy gut, and a liver that is detoxifying well and dealing with all of these chemicals that we get exposed to very well. So you have to be able to address all of those things to get thyroid function right. And you have to use the right combination of medications. And there's so many options out there. Everybody's a little different as to what ends up being just right for them. What about autoimmunity? So we talked about this a little bit earlier. What's your name again? Kelly. Do you know what autoimmunity is?
Autoimmune system.
So your immune system normally does what?
The immune system helps you fight against disease and bacteria.
Infection,
And
invaders, right? So if you write an autobiography, who are you writing about?
If you write an autobiography,
Yeah.
you're writing about yourself.
Right. So if you have autoimmunity, what's happening?
It's yourself. You have immune issues.
Your immune system's fighting yourself.
Right.
That's pretty messed up.
It is messed up.
It's totally messed up. It's not normal by any stretch of the means. And many people, does anybody know if they have autoimmune thyroid, whether Hashimoto's or Graves'? Yeah. Again, the endocrinologist will tell you it doesn't matter. So that happened to my husband. He is in his early 40s right now, but this has been 5 or 6 years ago. It was when one of my kids was a baby. I can't remember which one it was. But he had knee surgery, tore his ACL playing soccer, and 6 months later, he'd gotten better, and 6 months later after this, he is just so exhausted. He's like not hungry. He was acting like me when I had postpartum depression. He stays home with our kids. So I was like, Brian, what is wrong with you? You've got to pull yourself together. Go to the doctor, get some blood work done. And so he goes and he comes home and he's like, oh, it's my thyroid. Thyroid problems kind of run in his family. Autoimmune disease, cancer, all these horrible things run in his family. His TSH was like 50 for anybody that knows how bad that is. It's really bad. It should be too. So his doctor put him on some Synthroid, and I looked through the blood work that he had in the online portal, and I was like, he didn't even check for Hashimoto's, he didn't check insulin levels, he didn't check inflammatory marker, he didn't check any of this stuff that I wanted him to have. So I called his doctor and I said, can you please order these things on Brian? And he said very condescendingly, Betsy, that's not the standard of care. We don't need all those things. It's not going to change what we do. And I was like, you are so fired. I'm not ever talking to you again. So we went to someone else who ordered the labs, and he has Hashimoto's, and and he's very fit. He plays soccer all the time, and he has weird insulin stuff going on, and other hormone stuff. I won't say too much about him, but we go back to that doctor, and he's like, "Oh, Brian, I wasn't there for this visit. You just, it doesn't. These things don't really change anything. You just need to take your Synthroid, and it'll be fine." And I was like, "God damn it," like seriously. And so he's seeing a third doctor now, but we just take things in our own hands, which is what probably a lot of you have felt that you have had to do, and apply the concepts of functional medicine. And I need to live that way because everybody in my family has obesity and diabetes and severe depression and addictive behaviors and all this sorts of stuff. So I have to work hard to stay healthy, and I do, and I feel so much better because I know how. And he does too, because everyone in his family has thyroid problems and autoimmune diseases and cancer because their detox genetics are horrible. His sister, my sister-in-law, was just diagnosed with breast cancer at 38. And it's not that they have the breast cancer gene, it's because they don't detoxify well. And when he was in his mama's womb, she lived in Illinois and was exposed to tons of corn crop stuff that affected him in utero, and it's just all these pieces of the puzzle kind of fall into place. And what tipped him over the edge was taking Motrin for 6 months and totally destroying his gut. And now we know that, and now we know what to do. So he's still on thyroid medicine, but he feels great again, and we've been able to get that back. So it's important to know if you have autoimmune issues, because if your immune system is so confused that it's attacking your thyroid, there's at least a 50% chance it's not going to stop there. You're at a much higher risk for developing even worse autoimmune problems like MS, like rheumatoid arthritis. Alzheimer's and dementia are also connected with that. So I wasn't satisfied to sit around and just not do nothing and not try to mitigate this from happening to my husband. Most people have no idea that they should even be thinking about these things, and it's so important and so much fun when you get the right information. Anybody ever feel like that? As a gynae, people come to me all the time and they're like, my hormones are messed up, and they have no idea what they're trying to say. They just know that they feel terrible, and a lot of times it is thyroid stuff or other inflammation that's going on. But we're trying to get people to feel like this, right? So even with thyroid, things are so connected. Other hormones that people really struggle with, and that I'm not afraid to address, because we used to be afraid that if we treat, is anyone in here postmenopause? Everybody looks so young. So we used to just be afraid that no one can take hormone replacement because we're going to have breast cancer. Right, it's going to cause breast cancer.
Or heart.
Well, now, what did you say?
Heart, if you take synthetic. Yeah.
So there was all these trials. I was in residency when we were going through Women's Health Initiative, so it's been a little while, or had already kind of been completed. That came out, and we're like, oh, hormone therapy is causing breast cancer. We shouldn't do it, and that was it. Well, now in the last year, there's tons of research coming out that we're like, oh, that's not really right, and there's all these protective benefits, to preventing, dementia and bone loss, and you know what? We don't die when we're 58. So going through menopause at 52 and living until you're, 80 or 90, that's horrible. I do not plan to go through that without good hormones. And if you do it in the right way, in the right context of nutrition, and antioxidants and monitoring and using the right kinds of hormone replacement, you protect your body. You don't hurt it. And so it's really silly the way we approach things. And it's the same with replacing thyroid hormone as well. So I don't ignore this. It's all connected. It's all wrapped into the symptoms that we're having, and why you can't just address things singularly. It's not for everybody, but I make sure everybody's really truly informed about what's missing in their bodies and how we can safely put it back. And all of these things are connected, just like I said, plus your thyroid. And lastly, I don't think no one is in here about planning to have a baby. A lot of times people are coming because they're really trying to be proactive with pre-pregnancy trying to get their body healthy because of this. 1 and 2 of our kids being sick, having eczema, ADHD, autism spectrums, 1 out of 47 kids these days. It's crazy, it's terrible. So even if you're not planning to have a baby, you probably have, maybe grandkids on the way. So make sure that you tell those people how important it is to learn about this stuff and be a lot more proactive. This is hard because young people don't feel sick. We have to think about babies, right? Young people don't feel sick, and so to go and have a new concept about your health is kind of far-fetching a little bit. And even for me, my first pregnancy, I was still in residency, and my last year of residency, we rotate through with some naturopaths, which is really progressive of my residency program in Northwestern. And I was about 32 weeks pregnant. This is my IVF baby after I'd lost so many already. And I was drinking Diet Coke, and she was looking at me like I was crazy. And I was like, what? I was like, it doesn't have that much caffeine in it. And she was like, it's not about the caffeine. And she gives me some articles that showed me how the chemicals in the sweeteners and their affect nerve cells in the amniotic. It bathes the baby in the amniotic fluid. It concentrates there and affects nerve cells. And I was like, why didn't my OB doctor tell me this? She's like, they had no idea. And I was just floored by that. I haven't drinking Diet Coke since then. People have no idea. That's why we have to focus on education. So I'm excited when my OB patients are really ready to learn. These are some of the OBs. We give them this cute little prize when they tried really hard. Whose lives are going to be different because their mom has made the right choice. Not only were they doing the registry and painting their walls, they were also working on their microbiome and working on their gut health and their nutrition and really changing that genetic expression of these kids for the rest of their lives, which is profound. So what do we do that's so different in the model? How do we move forward? So understand all these things about yourself and really how you have to know what your root causes are to address your thyroid health, your hormone health, your metabolic health, whatever it may be, is you have to have better testing. And this is where the functional testing comes in. We look at micronutrient deficiency. We're taking always a deep look at insulin. When I'm looking at thyroid, I'm looking at least 6 different things to help me get the best picture of what's going on. We have to look at the impact of stress hormones in your body and other hormone imbalances. Understanding your toxic body burden, because we all have one from toxicity in the environment. Looking at your gut, even people who don't have a lot of gut symptoms, who aren't telling me I'm bloated, I'm constipated, I have IBS, there's still a ton of information to learn from what your microbiome is, what you're absorbing, what you're not, what you're digesting, what you're not, so that you have the feedback to be able to fix that. Genetically, what your vulnerabilities are, like my husband's family, I know that they have terrible methylation genetics. If you work with me, I'll look at that and explain what it means if it's important to you. But so I put him on methylators. That's one way I help protect him, from other things coming up down the road. And early signs of autoimmunity. Rheumatologists will tell you, unless you have a rheumatologic disease, this process doesn't matter. But we know it starts in the gut and the toxicity. So if we can change that early on, we can really prevent autoimmune diseases. The disease actually expressing itself, which is amazing. And I will never look at you and tell you, I'm sorry you feel crappy, all your labs are normal, you must need right? And sometimes labs are normal, right? But we just have to keep looking for what the problem is. But there's a big problem with the normal ranges that we use, right? So we get these lab ranges and we take a whole bunch of people, and unless you're in the top 2.5% or the bottom 2.5%, well, that's normal. Well, Valerie and Katrina are all the same genetically. Is what's normal for you normal for you? No. And what's normal is not optimal, and so it always has to be in the context of symptoms and individually what's going on in the big picture. So that's also kind of a really silly thing that we do that is one of the first things when I'm going through my functional medicine training, like, you're never going to read lab work again. Yes, that's very true. Even in my gynae clinic, I get obsessed with trying to tell people who, don't want to hear anything I have to say. They're like, leave me alone. Like, okay, well, I just want you to understand that this is not really normal and how it all fits together. So what do we do? How do we get help? Well, first, again, I love the WHO. They're so smart. We have to know that we can't keep just trying to feel well in our crisis care system. World Health Organization tells us that 90% of our problems prevalent today, so that's our cancer, our autoimmunity, our metabolic problems, our thyroid problems, are not really treatable with our medical procedures, which includes pills and surgeries and the things that we prescribe. Sometimes it's perfect. The day after Christmas last year, I flew off my bike and broke both of my bones in my left arm. They were like sticking out of my skin. It was horrible. It was awful. I went to the emergency room, cried for an hour because no one was helping me and I was bleeding, and I was like, I'm a doctor, help me! It didn't matter, you know, but eventually someone, they're all looking at me like I was crazy. I need pain medicine. I had it like wrapped in my shirt. It was so gross. It was so gross. It was horrible. Just my chain broke. My husband had done something funny with the wheel, and later on he told me, I think it was my fault. I'm like, oh no, don't even go there. Somebody fixed it. I have plates in my arm and I have some ugly scars, but I'm not maimed. I would have never been able to deliver babies or do surgery or like, you know, hold my kids again without our crisis care system. People used to die of pneumonia all the time. You know, 50% of people that got pneumonia died. That does not happen, well, until we get resistant to all the antibiotics that we have, until the bugs all get resistant. That's really a problem. Another reason you have to work on your microbiome, by the way, and I went to a talk by a microbiologist who knows nothing about functional medicine, but just in her microbiologist world, she was teaching a cooking class, actually, about how to make ferments, that your only protection down the road, because so many, the bugs are getting resistant to these tools that we haven't overused, is to nourish your microbiome so that when the bad stuff comes in, there's no space for them to thrive. So you have your own natural resistance. But anyway, it's good though. We don't die of pneumonia anymore, so that's progress. But for all of these other things we've been talking about, and most of the ailments that truly affect us on a deep level are not remedied that way. So we have to really step outside of the box of what the conventional system gives to us to be able to do it right. Because it doesn't create our health, right? These pills, Synthroid being the #1 prescribed medication, it doesn't make us healthy. It's okay to be a customer of things we need, but we can't pretend that it makes us healthy. It's helping a symptom, but it's only this tiny, tiny piece of the picture. So unless you want this, unless this is how you want to age, and this is how you want to feel like most people feel, then gosh, you need to make a different decision. And I'm not kidding. Like, you're going to end up this way like everybody else does if you don't decide to be more proactive and take the actions that you need to take. So anyway, that's a big thing that we do when we work with people in the kind of medical care. And eventually all doctors are going to be doing this. And, you know, I was laughing with one of my patients earlier today. She's like, her daughter is a functional nutritionist, and she just moved to California because the environment to do these things is so much more welcome, and a lot of medical providers do it. And I was like, well, I have 4 kids, and we have 4 grandparents, so I can't move to California as much as I would want to, Hawaii or Costa Rica or wherever. We can't move. But these are the kinds of things that we help people with. So ordering the correct test like we looked at. Really looking at your underlying causes, because whatever the root issue is for you, it's going to cause all kinds of problems and symptoms and diseases, not just the one that you think that you have right now. So you can really be preventative and proactive. We have to affect and look at the body as a whole. So most of us, you know, we see the gastroenterologist if we have heartburn and they put us on Nexium. And then we see, you know, the pulmonologist or an allergist if we have, you know, phlegmy issues. Well, that's actually connected, by the way. And we see our gynecologist for hormone replacement therapy. We're seeing all these different people, and no one's actually putting how it's all connected and together in the body. We have to give people a systematic approach to how they march through the steps to get well, because it's work. It can be hard, you know. It's a lot of different things that are sort of against the grain that you have to be able to do. And we provide a lot of mentoring and support. Who likes sports? Anybody? Yeah? Tammy, what's your favorite sport?
Right now, football.
Right now, football. Who's your favorite team?
LSU.
Oh, okay. She's like, duh, what's wrong with you? I'm always working and studying and reading, so I don't watch a lot of football. But yes, everyone loves LSU. So do those players like get on the internet and read a couple books and just turn into coach, teamwork, all of those things, right? You know, they're having someone pass on information to them. And that's how it is with our health too, because taking this model and working for yourself in this way and making these changes can be very overwhelming and confusing if you don't really know what to do and you don't have the right information and guidance at your fingertips. So we worked really hard here at Mint Health to set up systems that people can really follow and change. And we're going through helping you with all these missing pieces, so functional nutrition, detoxification, your gut health, and how you move that supports your hormones, and how your stress hormones impact everything, and you know how all the hormones fit together. Because really, like I said, it's not just the one problem that you think you have; it's all of the underlying things. So this is a lot of stuff, and it can be overwhelming. Who's done parts of this? Anybody? Right?
I was just thinking about that, like this morning, thinking, when's the last time I detoxed my body? And I know that's something you're supposed to do on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's probably been years.
But you can't just like do it. It has to be in a certain sequence, because you can actually make yourself worse if you start detoxifying and your
Well, that's why I haven't done it.
elimination systems aren't. You're pulling things out of the closet. So when you're detoxifying, you're opening up all the closets that you shoved all the stuff into when people were coming over and then forgot about it. You're opening up. You're opening them all up, and everything's coming out, but your front door's still locked. It has nowhere to go. So that's a lot of trouble, you know, people have with truly knowing how to do medical detoxification, because they're not doing it in the right setup. So it is, you have to know what you're doing. You also have to know what's happening in your body at that time to know how you would go about it, because it's not the same for everybody. But this can be very overwhelming, and a lot of people do one piece of it. You know, they take some hormones, or they change their diet, or they go to yoga class, but they don't put it all together, and they get frustrated because they're not getting results, and then they just quit. And I've done that over and over. I am not a perfect, healthy person. It's not in my brain. I have to work really hard to do what, you know, accomplish what I can, and I fail, and I just start over again. So it's really helpful to have people helping you follow the right path and giving you the right information to reach your goals and do what you're trying to do, which is why we've killed ourselves in the last year here, putting these kinds of systems together for people, because it's awesome. People don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they just don't know what to do, and they get overwhelmed and confused. Some people are lazy, but y'all aren't here. I know that y'all are not, because y'all took the time to come. So who's motivated? Who's excited? Anybody? I know, me too. I get excited every day when people come in, and you know, I saw one of my patients. It's been about a month now that I've been working with for over a year. She actually had Graves and Hashimoto's. So, right, ouch, exactly. So she was up and down. So Hashimoto's makes you have, there are autoimmune antibodies that make you low, and Graves are autoimmune thyroid antibodies that make you high. And her endocrinologist actually didn't know she also had Hashimoto's antibodies. They were treating her for Graves. But she would swing all over the place, and they wanted to ablate her thyroid due to the radioactive ablation. And she was my GYN patient, and she was like, is there something else we can do? And I was like, well, yes, you know, in the functional medicine model, there's all these different steps that we can go through. And after about a year of work, and she would disappear on me for months sometimes, because she's, you know, 3 little kids, and she's a marathon runner. She's amazing. Now she's cut back to triathlons only, and I was like, okay, whatever you say. But she came back, and she never had to do the thyroid ablation, and she finally said, you know, I'm there. I'm not swinging anymore. I only have to, she never gets low anymore. Her thyroid antibodies, her Hashimoto antibodies are almost 0. She occasionally has to take methimazole, which is what you take when you're high, maybe, you know, every other week. She has to take this tiny dose versus being on it twice a day, and then crashing and having to, you know, take thyroid replacement. So it's truly amazing. And not that she didn't have to work. She had to work hard for that. She had to make a lot of changes. That in the beginning she was like, oh my God, freaking out, crying. I can't do that. But then she did, and she's so happy now with what's happened to her health and her body. So as you're thinking about that, you know, and whatever is ailing you, thinking about how is life going to be better when you're really able to optimize your health and improve how you feel, because it really is possible beyond what you think is possible now. sometimes things go away, just like they did for that patient I was talking about. Not always. Sometimes you're just getting a lot better, but sometimes things truly do go away over time. It's important, how the way we feel and the diseases and things that we're at risk for because of these dysfunctions that are happening put us at risk for cancer and put us at risk for debilitating things that take our energy and our brain and our hearts away from the people that we love and our purpose in life. And how motivated are you? So I've said it, it's not easy. It's easy because we tell you what to do and we help you see, aha, this is where things have been going wrong. But it's still changes to make, and it's still learning new ways to take care of yourself and your body. But that's why we provide a lot of teamwork and a lot of fun motivation stuff that goes along with it, and have a health coach like Brittany that gets everybody really, really revved up. So a big chunk of what we do in functional medicine is teaching and putting people in groups and helping you understand and leading you through pathways together so that it's fun and exciting rather than, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever accomplish this or do this? We have to really involve you quite a bit. So, who's ready to take action? Right? Good. Not everybody, because I'm going to lock the door and start it. I will. I'm crazy like that. My kids are insane. They need to be in bed. No.
That is great.
I know. I love that picture. So, I didn't drag y'all here tonight just to tell you about all this and be like, good luck. I hope you can figure it out. It's because that's what we do. It's how we help people, and I'm extremely passionate about it because of my Mondays and Wednesdays when I see my wellness patients following up with us are so fun because things are going away, and wives are telling me I have my husband back, and husbands are telling me I have my wife back, and it's so much fun. That's why we're so passionate about what we do. So if you're excited, how do we help you? Because that's what you want to know next, right? It's like if you go to a really fun financial lecture and they're like, okay, see you later, you want to know how they're going to help you, right? So same thing. So what we do, we keep aside a group of appointments for people to come in and consult when you come and you've learned and you understand all of this, because this is a lot of information that most people don't know. I won't just do a consult until you've taken the time to listen and understand what this is all about. So people come in, you sign up for a consult, we save these spots for people who come, and then after we have a lecture, we open them up for my patients who need pap smears and other stuff. We give you a big old stack of paperwork that's going to ask you a lot of questions to help you really understand where your most likely underlying dysfunctions are before we do your testing, and it kind of helps guide me. Now, this appointment is not just going to solve all your problems. I'm not going to, sprinkle fairy dust on you and make everything better. It's really a consult to decide how can we move forward together. I only take about 15 to 20 patients a month in this kind of model because it's half of my practice. My other half is OB-GYN, which I still love and still want to do. So it's to understand, can I accept your case? Do I think it's the right thing for you? And are you ready and willing to put this time and investment into yourself? So people always, and then we figure out and we talk about how we move forward. So the $1 million question is, well, do you take insurance? Because most functional medicine providers don't, because we can't make ends meet with that. I do take insurance. It covers the same things that it always covers. It covers appointments with me, so your initial consult, any appointment that you have with me, and it covers labs that we can do through routine blood labs. And unfortunately, that's where it ends. And for me as a provider, it's kind of heartbreaking that I can't do all of this for everybody all the time. But it's time consuming, and it's a lot of extra stuff that we have to teach you. So all of that functional testing that I talked about are not things that your insurance is going to pay for, but it's an absolutely 100% necessary component. I keep it as minimal as I possibly can to you getting better and understanding what you need to work on. All of the group work and the teaching and the coaching, and all of the magic where the change really happens, your insurance doesn't cover that either. But what we do is create programs for people and make them work out. I've never had a patient come in here that really wanted help and was really excited and ready to move forward that we couldn't figure out how to make it work out. It's kind of like, does anybody in here have a kid with braces?
Just got his own.
Just got him off. Yay, I'm sure he's so excited. What's your son's name?
Regan.
Reese, so how old was he when you got braces?
He was 11.
11? Okay.
12.
12. And so, what was wrong with his teeth?
He actually was genetically missing some of his adult teeth, and so when he lost the baby teeth, he didn't have teeth that came in, so they had to close gaps and pull
Yeah.
other teeth and move them all around.
He would have been really messed up if he
Yeah,
hadn't done
it
that,
would have
right?
been huge.
So you wouldn't have, you wouldn't have said, Reese, I'm sorry, you're gonna have chronic pain and issues forever, and people are gonna make fun of you, and you're gonna be sick. You just came